Good afternoon, everybody. Hopefully you can see and hear us okay. Let us know if you can't. Looks like we're only going live in one of the groups for some reason. The stream hasn't worked, but we're in the main group, which is the most important thing. And then obviously we'll have a replay that comes up anyway as well. So I'll just try and add that on there. These things happen when you go live, unfortunately. So we'll just wait for a few people to come on. So it looks like people are joining now. If you can let us know if you can see and hear us okay, everyone. I'm just going to go into the comments. We've got hi guys, which is good. That's Jay. Hi Jay, hope you're well. Happy New Year, by the way, a belated Happy New Year to everyone. Happy New Year to you as well, Harvey. So
Happy New Year, everyone.
I know it's one of those things. It feels like New Year was such a long time ago already. But yeah, here we are. First Beyond the Buy Box back of 2024. And I've got to be honest, I really didn't expect to be talking about accountancy off the bat. First session of the year. We normally talk about strategic planning, goals, that type of thing. But, you know, as these things are sent to test us, here we are. And we've got loads of people that are jumping on. So we've got James, Nikkei, G, Rosie. Hello, beautiful. Hello, beautiful back. Steve, Imran, Cindy. Hello, hello. Welcome, everyone. Joshua's joined us as well. So any questions as we go along, please pop them in the comments. As you can imagine, this is probably going to be quite a busy Beyond the Buy Box with lots of comments and questions and things like that. So if you... Someone straight in there. Who said that straight away? Dan, passive tax refugees in the house. Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, before we get started, I want to introduce Harvinder / Harvey to you. What do you prefer, Harvinder? Is it Harvey?
Harvey's my most common. I personally don't mind anyone. Yeah.
Harvey's cool. So we'll go with
cool.
Harvey.
Nice and short.
Yeah, it's more personable. Yeah, exactly. So thank you for joining us on short notice. Like I said, you are an unexpected guest this week. So, you know, thanks to Harvey for joining us at short notice, because I know what an incredibly busy person you are, especially more so over the last week. So we will talk about the elephant in the room in a minute, guys. But just before we do, I just want Harvey to introduce himself. So you guys say hello. If you haven't spoken to Harvey, I'm sure you've seen him around in the communities. You've seen him around in the group, you know, answering questions, etc., especially over the last week with some helpful advice given the situation. But just your opportunity, Harvey, just to tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do and kind of why you're here.
Fantastic. First of all, thank you for having me on Beyond the Buy Box. I've seen the group for a long time and I'm really grateful to be with this community. It's a really good community. I've been following the Facebook page over the last week. There's so much helpful advice. Even the little video about how to download your data on Zero and Hub Docs, really impressive. So really grateful to be given this opportunity to be here. And hello everyone, Happy New Year. It feels like July. I've had such a busy week. It feels like I've done 6 months worth of work. Definitely done 6 months worth of sales, that's for sure. So introducing myself, so you can call me Harvey, as Natalie mentioned. My background, if I just start right from the start, so studied in the University of Birmingham, did economics. I wanted a career in the banking industry. I was in Barclays investment banking and wealth management in Canary Wharf for 8 years. Learned my ropes there, did my accountancy qualification, learned all kinds of skills, not just accounting related, but how to speak to people, how to speak to clients, what like a CEO of a business, which you all are in this room, would want to see, what kind of data you'd want to see, which I think is one of the main differentiating skills that I have. So the clients, there are plenty of clients over here who are with me at the moment, but they know when they phone me, when I speak to them, I don't speak accounting jargon, which is where I think a lot of people don't quite relate to with other accountants. I speak as if anyone can understand, a business owner can understand. So I translate accounting jargon into normal human speak, if you would like to say. So that's where I learned the ropes. And then I started Zmartly Accountants in 2018. Actually, just before that, whilst I was at Barclays, I did a side hustle as well, just like a lot of you in this community where you may work a 9 to 5 and you started Amazon FBA on the side. I was doing eBay dropshipping back in 2016, where I'd funnily enough buy from Amazon and sell on eBay. And I still do that to this day with an offshore team in the Philippines completely running it for me. But was quite a big seller. A lot of the months I did about 10K profit a month. And then just like Amazon, it just depends on how lenient eBay want to be with you, if they want to restrict your sales, if they want to push you. And then we also work with Amazon as buying account. So there'll be fluctuation between about 3K to 10K, but I still do that business now. Worked very well. On the back of that, because I had a community just like Facebook with a Telegram group. I was in a group where I was one of the only accountants in there, and a lot of mates in the group who were helping each other out goes, "Oh, Harvey, can you file my returns for me? Because my accountant doesn't know anything about the business, just doesn't understand it." And I think this is where it's a good time to talk about how Amazon differs to traditional businesses and brick and mortar businesses. Traditional businesses, for example, on my books, I have some IT contractors. IT contractors work for a firm. They send one invoice a week, put a few train expenses, meal expenses, and you're done. I don't need to even be an accountant to do those books. I can literally just enter the receipts manually. I don't need any staff members, don't need an offshore team, don't need even any sophisticated software. I can literally look at a receipt, data entry one by one is not going to take me a long time. Whereas Amazon is so transactional, it's unbelievable. It's likewise with eBay, Etsy, Shopify, any e-commerce business, so transactional. So a lot of clients, well, not clients back then, but just mates of mine were saying that, Harvey, I'm literally hitting a brick wall with my accountant. They're just not getting it. I'm trying to explain stuff. And they're trying to charge me £600 for bookkeeping because it's taken an X number of hours. And the accountants aren't wrong as well. If they are not used to it and they are taking 50 hours to do one little VAT return, then naturally they would charge that much, but there's just no profit left in it. So I started just doing a few mates VAT returns, accounting, and then I launched my accounting practice off the back of that actually. And then in 2018, I officially launched Zmartly as a side hustle initially, just whilst I got a few clients. And then in 2020, I think about 3 weeks before COVID hit, I had left my job. At the time, I was kind of regretting it because one of the reasons I left my job was the hour-and-a-half commute to London each way. So 3 hours a day I was spending commuting to Canary Wharf were just killing my time. And I thought, I need to quit. My job didn't allow me to work from home at the time. And I thought if I was allowed to work from home, I would have still done my side hustles and launched Zmartly at the time. But it was good because it threw me in the deep end. I had to go all in on Zmartly. eBay is running on the side that I don't spend any time on it. It's purely passive. Like I don't even say hello to my team anymore. That's how rude I am to my team members. But it completely runs that passive that they don't even hear from me, other than every 2 weeks I send the payroll. That's it. And even that someone in my team does for me. So that launched Zmartly. At the back end of, so it started with eBay clients mainly, and then a lot of eBay clients, what they used to try to do is they used to try to make the profits of dropshipping, which traditionally is a very unstable business because you have no factors in your hands. You're relying on Amazon, you're relying on eBay, you're relying on staff, you have nothing in your control actually. So they used to always say, I want to make my £2,000-3,000 a year, £10,000 and move to Amazon. They also Amazon FBA as the vision, the future where you have, let's call it a proper business. Yeah, the other ones is pure side hustle. You can't rely on it, you can't live off it. Amazon, they saw as a proper business. So a lot of my clients started to venture into Amazon. And at the start, I had no experience in Amazon FBA. So the first thing I did, just like I did eBay, I learned the business. The way I learned it was actually try to sell myself on it actually. So a lot of, many people may know that, some people may not know that. I did online arbitrage, a pure vanilla way, which is why it didn't work out for me. I literally just used to buy from Boots, Superdrug, just what everyone starts off with. And this is what I always say to clients, do not do that, because that's what I did. I did it from a point of view, I want to know what kind of reports I need to download from Amazon, what kind of issues do you face, how do Amazon work out the VAT, all that stuff. So I did it from a learning standpoint, so I wasn't concerned, I wasn't making money at Amazon. I stopped very quickly after about 3 months. But what I always say is, if you imagine anyone who wants to get into the business wants to put the least effort into getting to know the business, because you already have to learn the business. You have to learn how to manage an Excel template for the prep center. You have to work out all these deliveries. If you've got hazmat items, ungating items, you already have so much tension that even I said, oh, you know what, I learned the most simplest way. Afterwards, I learned to do wholesale, which is what people say. And then from wholesale, I learned private label. You kind of step up, don't you? And then I heard about Natalie about a year ago where she was selling bundles. I thought, you got to do something like that to make profit, because people like me, even though I knew Amazon had potential, I wasn't willing to put the work in to learn it because I already had my own gig going on. Just like if people have a 9 to 5, they think, oh, you know what, I can do retail, but it's profitable, but I don't have time to go to the retail shops. So the more you do stuff that other people aren't willing to do, that's where you're going to make a profit in this business.
Oh,
If you
absolutely.
go ahead. Yeah,
Yeah,
if you're
no, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. It's vanilla arbitrage does work, but as a foundation to, whatever you're going to go into. And it does work for a lot of people in terms of, if they're going from lots of different sources and things like that. It's a great gateway business to be able to get into it, to learn the business inside out. That's what I would recommend if anyone's new and they're starting out, to learn arbitrage first, because arbitrage is the most complex in terms of getting to know the business, which I think is what you're absolutely saying. I think a lot of reasons why a lot of people are possibly in the situation that they're in at the moment, and we will talk about the elephant in the room, is because during COVID, a lot of sellers came in and they were very much sold on the basis of, this is a passive business, outsource this, you don't need to know this, you don't need to know that, you don't need to know this. And unfortunately, when issues occur, even through legitimate sources and things like that, I think sometimes when you don't take time to get to know the business, when issues occur, sometimes people are a bit like, oh my God, what do I do? I don't know what to do. And I'm not saying people are in this situation, very much it's an external reason why people are in the situation that they are with passive tax at the moment. And I'm not blaming anyone or anything like that at all. I just want to make that clear. But the more you get to know a business that you're operating in, when problems occur, the less you panic. I think, but that comes with experience as well. I'm talking, I've personally been in business for over 15 years. So I talk with a 15 years experience ahead. So it's a lot easier. When we had our Section 3s, when we had our suspensions last year, a lot of people said, oh my God, you're so cool. Why are you so cool about it? Because I know it'll get resolved. And the same is with this situation with passive tax. I know it's a big pain in the arse for everyone at the moment, and massive. And I know, but it is something you guys will eventually resolve and be able to work through, essentially. So I'm sure you've had lots of worried people you've been speaking to this week, Harvey.
I'll come right onto that. Just one thing I want to touch upon. The more involved you are with a business, the more you grow your network, because you're physically involved. You're always reaching out for advice. You're always on the Facebook groups. You have your network of 3-4 close people. And that's when you actually figure out solutions to any problems. If you don't speak to anyone because you've got a VAT managing it all, they would never find a solution for you, most of the time. But if you are on the Facebook groups, you're in the community, you would see even the passive situation. I had people phone me even yesterday saying, oh, it's the first I heard of it this morning.
Yeah.
Whereas the people on the Facebook groups, who they would have seen it on, say, Thursday, because they're constantly asking for advice or doing whatever it is. So being in the business, growing your network is really essential for coming through problems, whatever they may be. So let's discuss the elephant in the room, which I'm sure impacts a lot of the group over here. So it's a really, really messy situation, and I've never seen anything like it in my professional career, especially for an accounting business to go down. It's almost unheard of, because it's not an easy business to manage. Believe me, an accounting business is an incredibly hard business to manage. It's full of labor, it's full of processes, it's full of admin, it's full of litigation. It's a really tough business. But for a business to go down, it's really, really rare. So it's left people in a big mess. Everyone's at different stages. Some people have VATs which aren't complete, which is a lot of people. Some people have annual accounts which are due at the end of Jan, which aren't complete. Some people have overdue annual accounts which were meant to be done in December, but because passive weren't working in December, they also are overdue now. There's PAYEs that haven't been done. There's self-assessments at the end of Jan. So everyone's in some, if you were with passive, unfortunately, everyone's got some sort of messy situation. Some people who have the best situation are the ones where they just had the VAT complete, I don't know, the 6th of December, and they got 2 months. But even that's still messy in a way, but that's the best case scenario. It's led to a few things. Of course, when something like this happens, people start to lose faith in accountants. I've been reading all the Facebook groups all week to see what the reaction is. Some people losing faith with accountants. I saw someone say this is the second accountant that's gone down. I've had a phone call with someone who's onboarded to me who's asked, what do you suggest with backing up your data? Because now if everyone couldn't get into zero, they would have lost their data. They said, when they move over to me, do they suggest backing up every quarter? People have concerns. If everyone from passive moves to Zmartly, would Zmartly be overloaded? Are we the next one to go down? And do we have the team in place to handle this stuff? And they're all fair concerns, to be fair to you. But let me address each of them in order. And my job here today is to give everyone reassurance. So if I do it in reverse order, number one, if everyone moves from passive to one accountant, Zmartly, what would happen? Are we going to be overloaded? Are the service of our existing clients going to go down? Can we handle all these people? So what people don't know is, some people, our existing clients know, because our existing clients, and you know who you are, have been raving on about us since 2023. I think about Feb 2023 was when we've had our first public post publicly in these groups to say, just moved over to Zmartly, they love us. It's been so much better than our previous accountant. Things get done on time. It's hassle-free, so friendly, even if you don't understand something. I think, Cindy, I know you're in the group. I remember when you first came over to us, you did a public post to say, you were unsure of going back and forth in emails. And I just said, hey, Cindy, let's jump on a call. And you were so happy with that. So people have been recommending us since 2023, and we onboarded so many clients in 2023 from not just from passive, but other competitors too. So we had already forecasted, that was our biggest growth year, 2023, actually took us off the map. So we already forecasted in 2024 that we would get at least around 100 clients. In God's honest truth, we already expected that. We didn't expect it to happen by the first week of Jan, of course, but we had expected it at some point in the year. By May, we'll kind of get somewhere close to that. So in December, we'd already put recruitment plans in place to hire 4 accountants for the 2nd of Jan. We didn't expect them to be busy until about May time, when we thought they'd be about 70% capacity, and then we hire again. But we already have the resource in place, and we're kind of grateful for that, because it means it reduces my cost as well, because they're all active, they're all busy. So that's why I'm saying to people, to the ones who have signed up with me already, they would know from the conversation, their VAT returns due next month. Some are overdue, and even the ones that are overdue, I said, no problem, we get it done by Friday. Anyone who have annual accounts due at the end of this month, said, no problem, that's enough time for us. Your VAT is due next month, no problem. And I wouldn't say that with such assurance if I didn't have a team in place. I'm going to double my recruitment plans, of course, to prepare further, because I'm expecting a lot more clients to come. But we already have a team in place, plus we're hiring more. And this is a really great thing, because all it does is it gives us more financial power to specialize in more recruitment roles. So for example, one of the plans I had this year was everyone gets quarterly financial performance decks, because this business is so dynamic. You can make a profit really quick, more fast than any other business. If you think of any other business, it will take you, people say, if you break even within a year, that's amazing. In this business, you can make a profit within your first month, and you want to keep on top of your finances. At the same time, you can also make losses, because if you're not keeping on top of your repricer softwares, it's easy to go into a loss, because you think, I'm making money somewhere, but it's just in stock, and it's easy to lose track as well. So we give quarterly financial performance updates to all of our VAT clients at the moment, but we're moving to doing that for all clients. Whether you have a VAT return or not, we're still going to do it. So we sent emails on this about 2 months ago that we're going to do this. And this is why we also hired the team in place. So we're giving those kind of things. But what we want to do is, on the back end of giving those performance decks every quarter, we want someone to come in, and I would always wanted to do this, where someone just comes in, explains the numbers to everyone individually in a 15-minute slot, and gives the clients the chance to say what concerns they have, just a back and forth client interaction. I want the accountant and the client to be really, really close. And before, I couldn't afford that, because I could afford it, but that person would also have to do another role, because they never had enough clients to speak to in a 3-month cycle. But now, because that becomes a full-time role, it means I can put a specialist in that role who just specializes with addressing your concerns, discussing the financials. So those kind of things become possible with scale. So that's where so that's kind of Zmartly being overloaded is not the case at all. The second one I want to address is losing faith in accountants, backing up your data every quarter. To be honest, you can do that. There's no harm in it, but I would say it's not necessary. I understand from my point of view, I'm saying it from an accountant. If you've been through a situation, you're kind of, you felt the pain of this happening.
Yeah.
You're more emotional, but it's so rare that an accountant goes down that I wouldn't, me personally, I wouldn't waste your time trying to back stuff up. If you ever were to leave an accountant, whether it be me or someone else, they would always give you that data. They always pass it on. We've never had an issue before getting professional clearance of other people as well. So your data always, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, and I think even in this situation, obviously it looked at the outset like people wouldn't be able to get their information from Xero, but even Xero have come in and they've been granting temporary access for people, which we'll come on and talk about in a later stage, and also in some cases transferring accounts and things like that. If it's your data, you're entitled to it. So I think that's the most important thing, regardless of whether it's held by someone that goes into financial ruin or a software provider.
I absolutely agree. So I would just have complete assurance that, look, don't worry, don't think, oh, if my next accountant goes down, I need to always have my data. Your data is always safe. It's somewhere in the software, whether it's with me, someone else, it's always in a cloud somewhere that you can always get access. Plus, very, very unlikely the situation will ever happen again. So I wouldn't worry about going extra, because it's going to waste your time that you could spend on your business. Don't waste your time on that. It's always safe. And most accountants always work off the cloud now in 2024, I should say, sorry. It's part of making tax digital, so your data is always there.
I just want to circle back and touch on that, Harvinder, if that's okay, because I just want to reiterate what Harvey said there about it being so rare. Before my last job, before I came into the full-time world of being self-employed, was I actually used to recruit accountants. And so I actually did that. That's what I used to do. I used to recruit accountants. So I worked with hundreds of practices, lots of different companies, dealt with thousands of people. And I think in my whole time that I was there, I didn't even hear about one time about an accountant going down, going out of business. We heard about accountants retiring, obviously passing their business on to someone, but accountants tend to retire and sell their businesses. They don't go out of business. So I just want to reiterate again, even from my point of view, from working in the accountancy industry, albeit 15 years ago, for 5 years, which is what I did, that it was something that just wasn't talked about. It was unheard of. And, we're not being disrespectful to passive tax, but what we are saying is it's very, very rare. So, but I appreciate everyone's going to be a bit once bitten, twice shy, and a little bit nervous about, going with another accountant. But ultimately, you guys have to go with another accountant. There are certain things within your business that you cannot do yourself. So therefore, you have to take that leap of faith again, unfortunately. So.
Absolutely. I totally agree with all of that. It's great to hear that you were a recruiter, and you must have been a good one if you recruited me to come here today.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, actually, I feel I've wound back the clock 15 years.
That's amazing. One advice on that as well, and this is not a push to come to me or anything. I read one comment which I replied to earlier on in the early hour this morning. Of course, there are loads of accountants available. Feel free to go to whoever you wish. I read someone recommend. So one thing I wouldn't recommend, and the only reason I say this, I get a lot of clients that come to me on the back of this and they complain a lot, is going to a local high street accountant. The reason is, there are e-commerce specialist accountants and there are high street accountants. If my book was about 85% e-com, I still took other clients on, but it's about 85% e-com. For eBay, Amazon, and the other two I kind of do manually, but those two are the biggest platforms. I've automated everything I possibly can in that business. I understand everything. I understand every report. I know how to read it. If a client asks me something, I know how to answer it. It's because it was in my invested interest to, one, be knowledgeable so that I could speak to people, because the last thing I want is someone to go on Facebook or Google reviews or Trustpilot reviews to say this guy doesn't know anything about Amazon FBA or my business, right? It's the last thing I wanted. So educating myself so that I can answer any query. The business changes very quickly. So in the last 6 months, you may say, oh, accounting doesn't change, you just enter invoices and the system. Is not the case. In the last 6 months, I had an increase of people having UK limited companies, selling in the US, getting VAT reclaims, some of which you want to change to a monthly VAT process. If you're claiming money from HMRC, you're under a high chance that you will get audited and investigated. So your invoice system would have to be really on point. You've got to be prepared. You've got to be making your 20% and 0% perfect, as opposed to, you've got to be good anyway. But if you were paying HMRC, you really are under the radar, in all honesty. So that business model is new. And if you say that to a person who's not used to it, they're like, oh, wait, I'm doing VAT refunds. I don't know what to do. But if I had 10 people in the same month come to me, I said, okay, look, this is a change in the business plan now. We're seeing a trend of people do this. We've got to be on guard for this. We've got to make sure our processes are clean. We've got to make sure we file everything to perfection. Otherwise, we'll get into a lot of litigation. Not only you will get into litigation, I myself will get into litigation filing stuff as an accountant. The reports layout in Amazon change all the time. So every time the Amazon seller dashboard, every about 6 months, we kind of have to update our notes because Amazon have a brand new layout, brand new reports, new inventory report, new this. You would only stay on top of that if you have an invested interest. If I have 85% of my clients doing this, I'm going to go in, make a new guide for my team on how to download the latest report. If you are only, I don't know, 5 clients out of 100 that I have, I'm going to focus on my restaurants, my other business, automate those. For those, I think most people here would probably be UK British citizens, but for any sellers who were living in another country, so I've seen a lot of like Pakistani sellers who have a UK company, the laws have changed with Amazon there. So technically speaking, you can have a US LLC, but if you're in the UK, is not classified properly as a US LLC. That you have to incorporate where you live, okay, or where you have a residency, a tax residency. So if you are a UK resident, you have a UK limited company and you sell in the US, that's the right way to do it. You wouldn't create a US LLC, very important. In the same way, I've seen Pakistani people come over to me from Pakistan, I say, they create a UK limited company, sold on Amazon, they got away with it, Amazon didn't care, they let them sell. Not a problem. It's against HMRC law, but it's not against Amazon laws at that time. Amazon weren't so fussy on it. Now, I've seen a few people come to me, not my clients. They just came to me like, what do I do now? It's almost a little bit too late to come to me now. But Amazon are holding all their money. The reason is if you are a foreign seller, you have to register for VAT on day one. You can sell in the UK, not a problem, but you have to be VAT registered. So these people were selling in the UK without being VAT registered because they had a UK company without VAT. And now Amazon are saying, look, you owe £20,000 in VAT and we're not releasing any money until you pay that VAT liability off first. They're in a pickle. There is potentially a way to solve that. The way to solve it is not guaranteed to work, but my advice, if that situation does occur to and has occurred, is you have to basically show UK operations. You have to show, even if you're living abroad, all your decision making takes place in the UK. How can you do that? You could say you're an investor. Again, it's not guaranteed to work, but this would be my advice if you were stuck. You're an investor. You have a UK employee. You would ideally put someone on payroll in the UK to show payroll submissions. You would say all your buying occurs in the UK, your staff is in the UK, your prep centers in the UK, and you send stuff to Amazon in the UK. I think without the UK employee, that doesn't become plausible. And ideally a UK office as well. Then you have a chance. If you do that, there's a good chance you could make it. I can't promise anything, but you have to show something of that nature. So it's very important to incorporate where you are there. But this is me showing how Amazon changes the goalpost. This wasn't an issue last month, it's an issue this month. You know, so it's, and if you were only 5 of my clients and the rest of restaurants, I wouldn't bother even coming up with a solution because I know this could happen a lot. I do my research. In the same way, where I may have 5 restaurants on my book and I don't automate that business because I think it's only 5 clients, I just do it on an old school invoice basis. And if I'm doing stuff on an invoice basis, entering stuff manually, I'm racking up my hours and I'm going to charge that client premium. I'm going to charge them £400 a month because it's taking so much of my time. Whereas if you go to an e-com specialist, technically speaking, your fees should be lower. My fees are very, very competitive because of that reason. I have the scale behind me, I have the process, I have the team, all my team know how to deal with this. If you were my one client and I've automated it, I'll be charging you per hour, which will inflate the price. So that's the reason I wouldn't go to high street accountant. By all means, go to anyone else you wish to. You have freedom of choice, but try to stick to an accountant who has dealt with e-commerce is my advice.
Yeah, absolutely. Simon asked a really good question here, actually. So we'll just jump on here where it says, it's great filling in your knowledge and experience. But what about when it comes to recruitment on the rest of the team? What level do you start with? Do they have similar experience to yourself? Is it new to them? If you can just give us a bit more detail on that.
That is a very, very good question. Well done on that question. Very good. So I had a lot of trouble in the past with this when I first started out. For about the first 2.5 years, I used to recruit people, and just like other accountants, they used to have to enter every invoice in, and they would say, for this one accountant, I'm going to charge me as my staff member like £400 for doing my account. I'm saying, look, I'm charging like £169. How are you going to charge me as my staff member £400? And I even then hired in the UK, I had someone sit next to me and he's like, I can't do this. And I was saying, look, these clients, I know past they were charging about 250, 350, none of my business, but even if you charge that much, if my staff member is telling me he's going to charge me £400, even at that level, you can't do it, So I had a lot of trouble with this in the past. And what I do now, what I've done since then is I have labor in my team. Of course, you need labor, otherwise you can't do the business. But I've improved my systems massively. The way it works is we create AI and machine learning where we take your transactions and it automatically categorizes a lot of the transactions for us. So we know, for example, if we see something called the Hive, we'll mark it as training. Staff training. If we see something called seller toolkit, it wouldn't even say seller toolkit, it would say go cardless, I think $32.99 and $34.99. We know that's seller toolkit and we put a VAT rate of 20%. If we see helium 10, we know that's a US software, we mark it as software, we mark it as 0%. So automatically categorize a lot of the transactions that are common amongst all of them. So what I train my staff to do, you need to have zero knowledge. One, I take them on a training program first. So everyone's on a training program for at least 2 weeks with me, where I bring them up to speed with how to read the Amazon reports, how to do this, how to do that. Plus, I train them on how to run the system more than bring your knowledge from the last 5 years. Of course, we need that, especially when you file annual accounts. You need to know stuff like depreciation, how to count your inventory and your balance sheet. We need all accountant knowledge, but I try to translate what's different on this part of the business by process
so they
improvement
have
and training.
regular accounting experience, obviously.
That's it. They have the regular accounting experience, which is essential to do annual accounts more so than VATs. But I try to do a training program with them. That's why I hired 4 together. So I train them up to speed at the same time, as opposed to one at a time. Plus, we're very process driven, very, very good processes. And we have to be.
Are they going through qualification, or are they
qualified? So we only hire people who tend to be ACCA qualified.
ACCA.
Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, you can't have more of assurance than that. Essentially.
One thing we don't do. So I want to touch upon this as well, because I've also had questions on this, and I don't know how people feel, to be honest with you. And when I first started, I used to always think, I need all UK staff, and I definitely need to show UK front. And sometimes I used to have offshore staff show UK front. I offshore. I think any business in 2023, you need to offshore. Otherwise, I could have UK staff, I could charge you 400 quid, you'll still be unhappy. So I do offshore, but our offshoring is part of the Zmartly organization. These people are contracted with us. They're working full-time solely with us. We know what expectation of VAT returns they should do in a day, what annual accounts to do with a day. We're all on Microsoft Teams. We have regular team meetings. We know everything about every client. It doesn't take me long. I can open a brand new VAT return without seeing anything, without seeing the work. I can see it, I can figure it out straight away within 5 minutes. I can jump on a client call. So yes, we do offshore. That's how we are able to afford such competitive prices. But they are part of the Zmartly organization. They're very well trained. Everything goes through 2-3 checks before anything gets filed. And we're all in touch with each other. It's not a case where we have an outsourced team, which is not part of Zmartly. This is all in-house employees, effectively. Just how many of you would have VAs in the Philippines?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, thanks for the transparency. I know you say that on your calls anyway as well. So it's, it's not anything that you're hiding about. And look, we're having this conversation and situation now based on a UK accountants with UK staff going insolvent. So, there's no guarantees anyway with if you're UK based or not UK based or anything. So I don't think anyone's got issues with that as long as you're transparent about it, which you clearly are. So thank you for clarifying that. Really appreciate it. Just a couple of people talking about local accountants. I think, now more local accountants do have that kind of e-commerce experience, especially if they're dealing with, if they've been going for a long time. I'm always open. We've used the same accountant for X amount of years because when we originally joined them, they actually had one of the UK's largest Amazon sellers. So we were really lucky in that respect. So, they already knew Amazon inside out. But it comes down to the questions that you ask. And for anyone that is considering whether it be going with Harvey or anyone else, I actually posted a list of some questions yesterday in the group of things that you can ask. And, this is what today's session is about as well. So, Harvey's here to help, essentially, and you're here to offer advice, reassurance. And that is the key word here. I wanted people to be reassured that whatever is happening, that big elephant in the room with passive tax going insolvent, and you're quite right as well, Harvey, there are people that are still finding out about it. I think there are probably people that are still, maybe are going to watch this replay that don't even know it's happened or whatever. So, because obviously not only is it a very unusual situation, unfortunately, and I'm not here to slag anyone off, I'm not here to, talk trash about anyone, but not only is it a very unusual situation, but the communication was incredibly poor as well. So people were in a bit of a double situation, normally in an insolvency situation. Now, one thing I do want to clarify, there are things, because I've seen some conflicting information. Insolvency situations, like I said, especially for accountants, are very rare. We've already established that. But in the original statement, there was a few things said about not being allowed to talk about things and not being allowed. Now, I know in certain circumstances, you're not allowed to talk about certain things in insolvency case. Is there anything you can clarify there in relation to that as to why, if people might be feeling aggrieved as to why the communication or was there no reason for it, essentially?
I wouldn't be able to comment, to be fair. I wouldn't know myself, having been through an insolvency. I would say I saw the post about not ruining people's Christmases, but then it could have come out on the 2nd of Jan, is my viewpoint, my personal viewpoint.
I do, yeah. I personally feel in that situation, that's the only thing I think he was kind of a little bit damned if he did, damned if he didn't. Because if he'd have told everyone before Christmas, then obviously everyone would have said, you ruined our Christmas, you did this, you did that. And by the way, I'm not defending any actions here whatsoever, but obviously the right decision, in my opinion, would have been to do it before Christmas, because then people would have had an opportunity. I think people, we don't live in the 1800s. Business doesn't shut down for 2 weeks over Christmas. There's normal operating hours over Christmas. And I feel, especially for those people who were having VAT due or end of year due, then obviously they might have had a few extra days to sort things out. And yes, I think one of the important things to understand is shit happens at the end of the day, and not everything is rainbows and unicorns all the time. And yes, I understand people want to save people as much aggravation and torment as much as possible, but at the end of the day, like whoever said that, Simon said honesty is the best policy. There's no doubt about it. So I think we can all agree that there's some big lessons learned, and even I've learned some lessons from this situation about communication and things like that as well. I think we can all take something from it. So in the immediate aftermath, if there is anyone that is watching this now, Harvey, that still doesn't know what to do, regardless of whether they're going to come to you or go anywhere else, what is the first thing that they need to do if they have not taken action already?
Sure. So if you have, first thing to do is get your data before anything. Whoever you want to go to, get your data secured. You should have received an email from Xero automatically, is what I've heard. But if you haven't, raise a support ticket. Xero don't have a phone number, unfortunately. I know it's 2024. They're one of the biggest accounting software there is. I wonder, why do I have a phone number if they don't have a phone number? But you can raise a support ticket. They do get back to you within literally like a few hours. raise a support ticket, explain your situation, get your account active. I think it gets active about 14 days. Okay. If you want to go to an accountant who uses Xero, you can just take out your subscription and you can transfer it to them afterwards. If you go to me, we don't use Xero, we have our own system, so that you can just get your data and cancel it. I have put on a guide on the Facebook group on how you can download the Xero data. Matt has also put in a video on how you can download the Xero data. Just follow those resources and download your data first and foremost. Everyone was on Link My Books with passive tax, download your invoices. I can't comment on how to do that, but I think it's pretty straightforward. Just download all your invoices from the past. Again, if you come over to us, we don't use Link My Books, so you can cancel it. If you want to go to someone else, keep it in place for now. Maybe keep it in place for a month while you make your decision. So get your data secured is the first and foremost thing. Second thing is look at your accounting deadlines. That's VAT, annual accounts, PAYE as well, which should have been filed for December if you were on payroll, and self-assessments at the end of Jan. Look at those, see which deadlines apply to you before you make your move. Of course, if you're overdue, you've got a deadline due at the end of this month or 7th of Feb, you need to move pretty quick. If you don't have something due for another 2 months, maybe you want to take your time, speak to other people. It's entirely up to you. Your choice is yours. The way I've reassured everyone, so what I had calls from Thursday when it wasn't even clear on Xero, and the people who phoned me on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I did it calls on the weekend, they will know I said this. I said there are 3 things that normally happen. Well, there are 3 potential scenarios here. Number 1, we normally email passive tax and we get all your data from them. We didn't expect a reply, but we said we'll go down that route anyway. But if we don't get a reply, we then need to go to Xero directly. Now, in this situation, at that time, the license was held by passive tax. You weren't allowed into your account. I said, as a director of the company, you should be able to get your data. So raise a support ticket, explain the situation, and hopefully they give it to you. I said it's 50-50. They can give it to you, or they can say the license is held with passive tax. Sorry, they have to approve it. In that situation, we run to a third and last option where we say we can't get your previous data. I have to work out everything manually myself. And everyone knows I said this for who signed up. I said, even if it comes to that third option, I won't charge you any fees. I will just charge you for the latest VAT return that I have to do. And for the rest, I will help you out as a goodwill builder, because I see this as a 10-year business, which shows I'm not going out of business anytime soon. I'm here to support you through your hard times. I'm here to make your process easier, for you not to pay double fees. Even if it means I have to take a profit hit myself for 3-4 months, I would take that hit, because I want you to just come in, I do your VAT return, you pay for it, and I don't say to you, oh, I might charge you back into the account if I can't get Xero, I can't get passive tax, and then I'm going to give you a $2,000 bill. I don't want that question mark looming over your head, because you've been under enough stress already. I want to waive that situation, say, look, either way, I will resolve it. You have complete assurance. Second thing, because I'm taking on so many passive clients, touch wood, it may continue, but it's down to me to almost give you the solution. If I took on one client, I would say, look, you have to get your data, otherwise I can't do anything. But because I'm taking so many, it's down to me. And I sent an email out to all my clients yesterday. I sent a guide in the Facebook group. I go, these are the steps, right? You need to do this, do this, do this. And we will get every one of you clients through this situation. So no matter how bad it is, how overdue you are, how little time you have, we will get every single one of you out of the situation, whether you have your data, you don't have your data, whether we need to do backdated stuff, we don't need to do backdated stuff, whatever the scenario, it's going to be quite common that you're not going to be the only one of our clients in that situation. We're going to have tens of you in that situation. So we will give you all a solution to get through it. And we give you the reassurance that we're not going to charge backdated fees as well. And we will have a solution for every single part. So we'll handhold you through the whole process is what we are doing. So complete reassurance on our side. Do not stress. I know it's easy for me to say that, but it's another thing doing it. But don't stress. We'll be fine. We'll work together through the challenge.
Well, you can't ask fairer than that, guys. Quick question I wanted to ask, because obviously a lot of people are finding themselves in a situation that they weren't expecting to find themselves in. Some people are logging into their accounts. Some people are checking their company profile on Companies House and realizing that they're in an overdue situation or a potential fine situation or something like that. For anyone that's in that situation, well, first of all, I would advise anyone go in and look on Companies House. I was on a call with someone on Friday, and first question I asked was, "You're not with passive tax, are you?" And they said, yes, I was, but a year ago, everything's fine. I've moved over and I signed off my accounts in December, my year end. So everything's fine. And I said, well, shall we go in and check just to make sure? Went in, accounts overdue. Biggest shock, I think, that he had that weekend, not expecting that to happen. Obviously called HMRC, sorting out and, is in the process of sorting it out. So I would also say one top tip, even if you think and you've been with passive tax anytime in the last 12 months, I would recommend going in and double checking if there is anything outstanding or overdue, because a lot of people with passive tax use their address. So presumably any demands, etc., were going to their address, and I can't say whether or not they were telling people or not telling people, but obviously people were not aware of the situation. So please do your own due diligence. And even if you have been assured that it has been done, please go in and check. Secondly, Harvey, for people that have gone in and found that they're in either a fine situation or an overdue about to be issued a fixed notice penalty, what can be done there? Anything?
Sure.
Or
Yes. It's a very good question. So one of the steps that we're telling people as well are, number one, phone HMRC so they can log it down that you phoned in, you explained the situation. Number two, the fines are different for different scenarios. So VAT is one department. With VAT, if you're overdue, you get a penalty point, and they give you 3, and then they start to put you on like a big watch list. So a penalty point is not the biggest thing in the world, but what they try to do is they try to give you a fine as a fixed percentage of whatever VAT you submit. So if it's the first time, you can normally get it waived quite easily. It's just a matter of first you file the VAT, then you go to your HMRC Government Gateway login and you appeal it, and you tell them the exact scenario, and it's a complete exemption situation. So you should win that battle. You just have to hope it's not a robot approving it on the other side and it's actually a human, but you can just give a detailed example, and that's where the phone call comes in as well. If it's annual accounts, so the way annual accounts work are this. You have annual accounts, which is the deadline from Companies House. Companies House and HMRC are two separate departments, like Amazon and eBay in a way. Companies House will give you a fine, normally about 150 quid if you're within 30 days. And that fine increases, starts to double like every month. So get those accounts filed ASAP. Corporation tax deadlines are normally 3 months after. Technically, you're meant to pay it at the same date your company accounts get filed, but you get 3 months more to file it. So you won't get a fine from HMRC unless you're more than 3 months late, effectively, is the way to think of it. Again, Companies House have their own appeal process. They are notoriously tough to waive fines of. I had a client who unfortunately was deceased and they still upheld the fine. I'm like, how is the person meant to do anything? And it's crazy. But I think that's where a robot was there. We wrote again and then they waived it off. But wow. again, you have to appeal. Hard. You have to appeal and then you have to phone. Yeah, right. That's another thing. Third tip is if your accounts are about to be due and you think, with us, if it's normally at the end of each month. So if anyone comes to us and they have the deadlines of 31st of Jan, we should be able to do it, no problem. If you go with anyone else, or you leave the decision last minute and you can't do it, I would recommend just filing 0 returns. Just file anything on Companies House. Get it done, it won't be late, and then resubmit an adjusted return. So that way you stay in line with the deadline, and then you send them the readjusted return. It causes pain though to send readjustments. It's a longer process, and your accountant won't thank you for it, but it can be done. Plus, you can extend deadlines too. So you can change your accounting period to extend deadlines. So try to use everything you can. Try to extend deadlines, appeal. If worst case scenario, if you extended already and you're still late, then file like a 0 return and adjust it after. That's a last resort, but that's a little trick that you can use.
Trick of the trade. Top tip there, guys. But please, as Harvey says, that is to be used
last resort,
like a last case scenario. I think the key here is not sticking your head in the sand, picking up the phone. I know a lot of people don't like picking up the phone. I've been in a situation where, someone's asked me to recommend an accountant. I've recommended Harvey, and Harvey, you're straight away, yeah, when's cool? And people are surprised, like, oh, sorry, you actually call people, because no one calls each other anymore, essentially. But it's about reestablishing that communication. I suppose the way I think about it is the business that we do, how we operate, the services, the strategies that we use, accountancy, all of these different dynamics of so many different arms and are so fluid and ever changing on Amazon. But I tell you what never changes, and that is the HMRC and the tax man and the VAT man. That never changes, so they stay exactly the same. And the best form of communication is picking up the phone and talking to them, and I think it's contrary to, we've talked about this loads and loads of times before, so hopefully this isn't new information to people. The HMRC, they are there to help. They're not there to, constantly berate and tell off and fine. They're there as an advisory service, as a government public service at the end of the day. So, if they can help, they actually will. And you'll even look by Mark Hawley's own testament. In fact, whether or not we know what is said is true in that or not, but even in their scenario, which is a very rare scenario with HMRC as their biggest creditor, they were trading for, sort of 12 months in trouble with the HMRC. And, by his own admission, by the way, before anyone sues me or anything like that, that's what he said. So it's one of those things that you always should pick up the phone and talk to them. That's definitely one of the best things to do.
One thing with that, sorry, just to add. So passive tax would have been a registered agent on your accounts. So if you were to appeal a fine, phone them, they can definitely see that, okay, you were registered to passive tax. Passive tax has issues with HMRC. It's hundreds of clients that have the same issue. They can map that up on their system. It'll be on the CRM.
Yeah, and adding extra weight, no doubt, to passive tax woes, but we are not here to talk about those, unfortunately. Right, and that's what I wanted today to be about, because I know that there's some really angry people out there, and quite rightly so. This is not something, especially when you've paid for a service, that you expect to happen. It does happen. It's very rare, as it happens in normal business. I'm sure everyone's been in a situation where they've paid something out and business has gone down or something like that. So that's not an unusual situation. The unusual situation is very rarely happens to accountants, because there are, as I understand it, bigger consequences for if it happens to people in financial institutions. And I know that everybody's really, really angry. And what I want to focus on solutions and not what's happened, because there's nothing anybody can change, in the past. I want to get people sorted moving forward, making sure that they're happy and they've got the reassurance and confidence to be able to move forward and continue, as opposed to focusing on the anger. If need be, you can come back to the anger later. You can register yourself as one of the creditors. You can go down and see the liquidation process. You can go through all of that. I wouldn't encourage anyone to do that, because I'm about looking forward as opposed to looking back. But reassurance, if anyone wants it, and hopefully Harvey can back me up on this, is that rightly or wrongly, anyone involved in that company and that situation, i.e. Mark and his family and everything like that, they make their living on financial institutions, and presumably after this they won't be able to work in financial institutions again for a period of time, certainly. So there is going to be consequences.
Yeah, you're right about that. It impacts your practice license that you hold, your qualification. So unfortunately, we don't want to wish that on anyone, to be honest with you.
Of course not.
It would be a consequence. One thing is, touching on what Natalie said about not putting your head in the sand. Everything here, I can assure you, is resolvable. So just act on it. It can be solved. No matter how bad the situation is, like I said, no matter how bad your personal situation is, it can all be solved. But the quicker you act, the less fines you have. Another tip, just what Natalie was talking, I just wrote down in my notes. If you have to phone HMRC, anyone who's phoned before would know it takes hours. And sometimes you get through after an hour, 20 minutes, and they say, hello, and they put the phone down on you, because they're also working from home. You hear dogs in the background, babies crying, and they put the phone down on you. And then they don't call you back as well. They never phone you back. Considering how often it happens, they should. Then you have to phone again, and you think, you know what, I've used up my hour in the day that I was allocated to HMRC. Now you call again the next day. And something you just forget when it happens 2-3 days in a row. If you call at 8 a.m. in the morning, they won't thank me for this, because it'll mean all the lines start to get clogged up at 8 a.m. But you'll get through in about 10 minutes. So So if you did have to phone early in the morning. And just
There
remember,
we go.
company's house is one party, HMRC at another.
Yeah, perfect. Hot tip there. Right, I want to answer a few final questions, and then Harvinder is, you guys have made him. Well, you guys haven't made him really busy. It's not his fault. So we are sticking to the hour as much as possible. I want to answer. There's a few people there talking about. Do you recommend getting zero, having your own subscription? My personal thing is, I know Matt writes, Matt Cromie's, Johnny, we all have our own zero and Link My Books subscriptions because we want to be in control of our own data. Now, obviously, we're all established businesses and their business costs to us. Presumably, if you're newer in business, I understand added costs, but I know I personally recommend having that, and being in control of my own data. Harvey, you might recommend something else, obviously, but for us, it's just a business cost at the end of the day, and we want to have that level of control of our own data.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a small cost as well. Like I have one client who works in the film industry, and in filming, it's really good. Yeah, I've got my credits as Zmartly in quite a few films actually at the end.
Ooh.
So it's really good. And with filming, they get VAT refunds, massive refunds. Like I've got this client £400,000 in the last 12 months. Genuine refunds. They purchase stuff and I claim back the VAT. Plus, they get a tax credit from the government where for any UK money spent, they get 20% back in a tax rebate. So I've got them over £500,000 in the last 12 months.
Wow.
And only a few accountants can actually do that in the whole UK. And one of that, about 4 accountants that is in that industry. The client wants to wrap up that company. He's not doing any more films in that company for the next year. He's doing it in another company. And he goes to me, can I cancel my zero subscription? And it's about £34 that goes out every month. And I thought, I've got you £500,000 because I've got the zero subscription where I'm submitting it and you don't want to pay £35 for the next 6 months while you're not trading. I go, what are you doing? Like, be real, right? You can save costs in other places. Everyone pays to sell around, pays to sell a toolkit. It's not that big a cost to softwares. But if you wanted the pros and cons, so I'm agreement, I think just suck it up as a cost and pay for it. Accountants do, and you sometimes do get deals as personal. You get like 6 months free or 6 months at a low cost. Accountants also get good subscriptions where you may want to speak to them if they offer zero, because they may and ask what price they give, because we get like packages where you sign up 10 clients and you get this price. So you can weigh up cost if cost is an option for you. But if you want complete control, you can have it on your own. It's entirely up to you. That's the pros and cons. I don't think it's that big a deal to have it yourself. It gives you that comfort and control, in all honesty.
No, I agree. Right, I just want to answer 2 more questions, if that's all right with you, Harvey. We've got Stephanie Zero. She's saying that Zero won't give her any of the access. So that's quite unusual because, as far as we're aware, they are granting it. They're granting it temporarily for 14 days. So is there anything you can offer there to sort of why she's not been able to get it?
I'm the same as you. That's what I've heard. I think it's a case of just raising another sport ticket, clarifying your situations with passive tax, telling other people I've been getting access for 14 days. Even mention you're happy to pay if you need to, and I think you should be able to get it granted, even if it's for a short duration.
Andre in the chat for this live did actually put a template of what he sent to Zero for the email as raising the ticket, Stephanie. So I would also have a look at that as well. Let me know if you're not added to the chat and I'll try and figure out how to add you there. And then finally, we've got Luke's ones here. How hard is it going to be for us to get reference numbers that we need for a new accountant from Passive Tax? ? I doubt they are going to supply these going forward, and I can see issue with changing business addresses, and because a lot of companies were obviously registered at Passive Tax's premises, weren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's something called when you form your companies, you'll get 2 references. One is a UTR number, which comes from HMRC, unique tax reference. One is a company's house authentication code. It's about 5 to 6 characters long. You need to have that authentication code. If you have that, you can change it instantly online within a second. You just go to company's house, you file a return, and you change your address. If in the situation you said, Passive Tax had that letter and you don't have any record of it, definitely do look, because even if I register a company and it comes to me, I will send it on. Or if you ask for it, I'll give it to you. But If you don't have that, then there's something called, if you write this down, an AD01 form, Alpha Delta 01. It's like a paper form where you don't need an authentication code, but you write all your details down, you sign it, and you post it out, and that will change your address. It's just that paper obviously takes a lot longer, so it may take a few weeks, whereas the first option is very instantaneous. Those are your two options for changing address.
Yeah. And I definitely recommend, guys, having an external address. So a business address. Matt Cromie uses one. I can't remember what it's called. Do you have a recommendation for registered business address?
I'm going to go on the opposite view here, unfortunately. Oh. So we used to use a registered address from Companies Made Simple. And it was cheap, at 60 to 100 quid a year, depending on if you're first year, second year. And they'll scan all your posts, and they'll scan the HMRC posts and rip the others up. The reason why I go against it is because we've had cases where we've registered a client using that address. We used to heavily use that as well. And the VAT registration process already takes 40 days. And we found a period where it's taking like 60 days. And we're like, Jesus Christ, this is going like ridiculous. What's HMRC doing? And you phone HMRC, they say, yeah, there's a big backlog, which is true. But then we found out afterwards, actually, the company wasn't scanning the post in right away. So if you imagine they're getting post, you have to wait for them to scan it in. It takes a few days and then you get it. So even that 40-day window goes to 45 days because they scan it in. But they were like a month backlog behind. So the reason we knew it was because when they scanned in the post, it would say something like, I don't know, 26 December on the post 2023, and it'll get scanned in on the 14th of Jan. I was like, hold on a minute, HMRC aren't delayed, it's actually the company. So maybe you need to just research a reputable one, and maybe we used a bad option. Maybe it didn't used to be bad, but we found a good period where they were bad. So I recommend an accountant's address is normally quite good. Like we're quite good on our post. Some people don't mind using the home address, but I do not advise it. The reason is, as Natalie mentioned, people would know where you live. And that data, okay, let's imagine the case of passive tax. I don't want to say anything too much, but if you knew Mark Hawley's actual address, I'm sure a lot of people would be paying a visit over there. And that's not data that should be given out in public, right? Same way you may piss off, I did eBay dropshipping, and something you pissed off the actual customer because you sell them something, it comes in an Amazon box, and they think, hold on a minute, I paid £5 extra for this. And if they know where you live, they might come knocking on your door. And I have had a case where someone has come to a client's door over like a couple of quid because they feel really ripped off. So you never know what, and it could be something that happened in your personal life. Either you aggravated someone, something went the wrong way, they do a data digging, they know where you live. So I really advise going against your personal address, but if you did want to, it's a free option. But I'd go with an accountant's address, or just do some research on a reputable business address. Maybe I chose a bad option, could have been my fault. But that's just one thing I saw is the letter goes to them, then they scan it in, and if they are getting too many letters, or I did one even recently where one of the film clients that I mentioned, he had a HMRC check go there for about 2.2k VAT return. They scanned it into me, but they never posted the check out. So I'm like, I can't go to the bank. Here's a scanned image of the check. Please cash it in. So now I have to phone HMRC to get another 1 cent, put the bank details in there. So that's the disadvantage of those as well.
Well, what we actually also do, so as an extra tip, we have a local registered address as well. So we can go and personally pick up posts, you know, if we need to, especially for that postcard that occasionally you need for bank verification for Amazon as well. So, you know, but I think the most important is reputable, do some research, but definitely not home address. You don't want people turning up at your door. That's the most important thing for sure.
That's it. Agreed.
Yeah, a couple of questions there, just about, comments about will it go into verification? It shouldn't do for that level. It may go into a light verification, but certainly no suspension of disbursement or anything like that whatsoever. You might just have to get I think for this one, it's either UTR number or something that you have to get, but it's better than going through potential light verification and changing it than having under a suspension situation where your details don't match and you're unable to change them. So it's always better to make that proactive change on Amazon, I think.
Also, one thing on that, there are two things Amazon asks you. One is a business address and one is a trading address. The differences are you can be registered to my business address or a virtual address office. But your trading address is where your activity takes place. So you may prep at home, for example. Your trading address when I set mine up 2 years ago, my business address was in London, my trading address was my home one, which doesn't change on Amazon, right? So even the verification should be very easy to get through. Your trading address doesn't change, your business address has. But I think exactly what Natalie said, I echo it. It is definitely worthwhile and just going through the light verification.
Yeah, exactly. It shouldn't go into any type of horrible verification like it used to. But, Amazon is that forever moving. They love moving goalposts. So, this information is only valid and good now, guys. What I will say, Harvey, you've been so generous with your time. There's loads more I wanted to ask. There's questions we wanted to answer, but I know how busy you are at the moment. So maybe you can come back and visit us another time. And we can go through some stuff. But I know that you are so very generous with your time, regardless of whether people are clients or not. So Harvey is in the group. Whilst I will say, please respect his time, of course, but I'm sure you don't mind, the odd question being asked here and there, here and there.
Absolutely. I'm here for all of you guys, and I will be coming to Manchester as well. So for anyone who's coming along there, I've asked Natalie for tickets early on this morning.
Yeah,
so yeah,
absolutely. Well, this is a Hive event exclusive, guys, unfortunately. So unless you are a Hive member, you aren't able to attend on this occasion. But that's exactly what I was going to say. Harvey's going to be coming to the event in Manchester on Sunday anyway as well. So if you know, and Harvey will be there as well, mingling with the Hive members. So everyone, if you can appreciate Harvey as much as possible and show him your appreciation, because and also, sorry, shameless plug, you've given us an hour and 10 minutes of your time. If anyone does want to contact you, no pressure, this is not an upsell or anything like that, but I'm sure you'll agree this chap definitely knows what he's talking about. How can anyone contact you?
Thanks for that, actually. So you can DM me on Facebook. I'm actively checking my Facebook, especially now. Also, my website is zmartly.co.uk. On there, if you click contact, in the same way for clients and non-clients, you can just click contact and my calendar appears and you can just book in slots over there. So my calendar is always up to date, just book in any slots you wish. And like I said, even if it's just advice, no obligations, no charges, nothing. So feel free to reach out. I'm here to help everyone.
Cool. And Cindy, thank you very much. Put the website on there at smartly.co.uk. We won't go through fees and
that's fine.
It's Binner that says that. We won't go through fees here, but if you do what Harvey says and just go ahead and hit that contact button, everything's no obligation, of course. I mean, hopefully you guys, I'm pretty good at judging. I'm not judging people, that's totally the wrong word, but you don't seem me like a pressure kind of guy.
No, absolutely not. You're a good recruiter. Also, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all my existing clients who have so supported me very, very much on all the Facebook groups, raved about me, and it's because of you guys that I'm in the situation now where a lot of people are supporting me, coming on to me, so I can't thank my existing clients more than enough.
Yeah, no, that's lovely. That's lovely. And we appreciate you coming on. We really, really do. Lots of love for you there in the comments, Harvey. So thanks, guys. I'm going to be back next week. Hopefully, I'm sure we will still be talking about the elephant in the room this time next week anyway as well. But if you just caught the end of it and you are passive tax employee, not employee. Well, if you're in passive tax employee, that's a different situation. If you are a client, then it's worth going through and looking at this. But ultimately, the biggest takeaways is everything is resolvable. Yes, I know it's a bit of a shit show, but everything is resolvable. You will get it resolved, and hopefully you'll get through it as unscathed as possible. Find and if for any reason you're not going to be talking to Harvey and whoever you're going to be talking to, ask those questions. Make sure you do your own due diligence, but mostly importantly, please don't feel like you can never trust an accountant again or anything like that. It's a very rare situation, and we want to ensure that everybody, really is in a case of going through and dealing with this as opposed to not wanting to deal with it because they think it's all just going to go away. It really won't. You need to face this head on, guys. And of course, we're here to support you as much as possible. So, Harvey, once again, thank you very much. Anyone that wants to contact him, please do so. And I will see you guys next week. But obviously, keep communicating, keep posting in the group. All of your posts are so helpful to everyone in this situation. And as Harvey said at the start, it's your network is your net worth in a situation like this where, you know, you can feel quite lonely, but in this situation, hopefully you guys are helping each other, you know, all helping each other out, which I totally see that you are, which is fantastic.
Thank you very much, everyone. Really appreciate all your time. Thank
Okay,
you for
see you
joining.
later.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. Bye.